Today we're going to talk about the unintended consequence of Donald Trump's parade of red tie-wearing mouthpieces doing his bidding outside the courthouse in New York. And I interview Congressman Daniel Goldman about why Trump is so desperate to have these people violate the gag order on his behalf, if he's worried about a sleeper Trump supporter on the jury, and what to do about the corruption of the Supreme Court. I'm Brian Teller Cohen, and you're watching No Lie. So, because satire is dead at the hands of this Republican Party, we've now seen a bunch of identically dressed Republican supplicants parading themselves around outside the courthouse in New York to do what Donald Trump can't do, which is to attack the judge's family and witnesses because Trump himself is bound by his gag order. So, real quick, here's just a small sampling of what we've seen.
And they've got this gag order against him. That's why we went up there, so that we could say the things that this judge, this corrupt judge, is not allowing him to say.
Now, I would like for anybody here in the press, anybody at home, anybody at MSNBC or the media afterwards, to clearly state what exactly is the crime that Donald Trump committed. Oh, wait. We have not heard a good answer to that question.
In the midst of all this nonsense and corruption, they have placed a ridiculous and unprecedented gag order on President Trump. They were overriding his constitutional right to defend himself from political smears from his harshest critics at the most important time. He is soon to be officially the nominee of one of the major parties in our country, running for president. And they have him tied up here in this ridiculous prosecution.
And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing that has been wrong here. Nothing that has been done poorly by President Trump. The only thing that's being done wrong is by this judge. His daughter's making money, raising money for Democrats.
What we've learned is that Michael Cohen, who has no credibility, who has purged himself multiple times, who has zero integrity, has actually admitted to defrauding the Trump organization.
So the obvious question first, a legal question. Is this a violation of Trump's gag order? And the answer is no, probably not. Not unless prosecutors can prove that Trump directed them to say these things. Did he? I mean, maybe, but also even if he didn't, these people exist to serve the guy. And so he wouldn't really need to. Like the fact that they're pouring into the courthouse right now like they're 16-year-old girls who just found out that Taylor Swift is playing a free concert at the park goes to show that these aren't really people that necessarily need to be persuaded to do Trump's bidding. These guys are so desperate for his validation that they are literally dressing like him. Just a little gaggle of red tie-wearing ducklings who've all imprinted onto Donald. So that's the deal with the legal stuff. Is it worth it to try and prosecute Trump because he's using them as a workaround for his gag order? Probably not. And even if he did order them there, like what? Do you expect these Republican officials who exist to serve their God King to actually admit that during a show cause hearing? Probably not going to happen. Okay, so now let's talk about the impacts of this, both on the Republican base and on Americans more broadly. So first off, the impacts on Trump's base. Is this giving them some major permission structure to come back home to Donald Trump by virtue of the rest of these officials going out there and basically telling them that Trump is totally innocent? It's certainly possible. Remember, the latest Reuters Ipsos poll from the last month found that 24% of Republican voters wouldn't vote for a convicted felon. So maybe these Republican lawmakers see the writing on the wall and they're trying to water down the inevitable conviction to soften the blow when it actually happens. But more likely, this isn't even so much for the Republican base, it is for Trump. I'd venture to guess that they're actually just performing for an audience of one. Maybe they're vying for the VP slot like Doug Burgum or Vivek Ramaswamy. Maybe they want a cabinet position, Byron Donalds. Maybe they just know that they have to kiss the ring or risk excommunication from the party, which is why Mike Johnson's probably there. But look, you don't literally dress like the guy if you are not sucking up to him as hard as humanly possible. That's for him. That's for Donald. They want his attention. They want his validation and approval, and maybe even a nice little post on Truth Social that they can print out and frame so that they finally feel like they have purpose in life. And they know that he only responds to abject, breathless sycophancy. The more demeaning, the better. And so that's what they're giving him. This is a guy whose lifeblood is adulation, and lucky for him, he is surrounded by people so devoid of dignity that they are happy to demean themselves to the core of the earth to give it to him. Now, here's where I think that it's backfired on them. We're going to talk about the implications on the broader electorate. So think about the message it sends that these people, these Republican elected officials, will stop at nothing to protect Donald Trump. Here's the perfect encapsulation of what I mean. Mike Johnson is a self-proclaimed devout Christian. Dude presents himself as the living embodiment of the Bible itself. And so for that guy to voluntarily go to New York so that he can carry water for a criminal defendant who paid hush money to a porn star for an affair he had while his wife was at home with their infant son really does give the whole game away. There are no principles, no values, no morals that they won't immediately cast aside in their groveling desperation to appeal to Trump. When you've got the Jesus guy sprinting up to New York to defend the porn star guy, you get a sense that they're all in. And so a second Trump term would mean full capitulation. There won't be any Mike Pences or Brad Raffenspergers or Mark Espers or Ty Cobbs there to stop Donald Trump from doing whatever he wants to do. That's the message that these people are sending right now, advertently or not. They will offer a full green light to Donald Trump to carry out his agenda, which thus far he's promised would include terminating the Constitution, sending the military into democratic cities, signing a nationwide ban on abortion, supporting a national pregnancy registry, supporting 11 million immigrants who've only known the U.S. for their entire lives, and so much more. That's what you should take out of the fact that these little doormats are defending Donald Trump outside of the courthouse. The Republicans themselves are offering us the warning. It's our job right now to listen to it. Before we get to my interview with Congressman Daniel Goldman, just a reminder that I've written a book. It's called Shameless. It's available right now for pre-order. I would really appreciate if you would grab it online, and if you do order in this pre-order period, then you can get a signed nameplate. Just follow the link in the post description of this video or go to briantylercohen.com/book for directions. And of course, to buy the book, you can also just search for Shameless by Brian Tyler Cohen on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or any independent bookseller online. And thank you so much for ordering. Okay, here's a preview of my interview with Congressman Daniel Goldman. Do any of your Republican colleagues disagree with this? Do you hear, as far as these people going to the courthouse and just making themselves supplicants for Donald Trump, do they disagree with it? Do you hear from any of these people behind the scenes that this is a circus and that they all look like clowns?
There are some who I definitely hear from who are frustrated by it, who question it, who do not like it. Most of them are pretty quiet and not coming out against Donald Trump, but they're not coming out strongly in favor of him. The ones who are coming out so strongly in favor of him are doing it out of pure personal and political ambition. I mean, when you look at someone like Elise Stefanik, who came into Congress as a moderate, thoughtful, reasonable Republican and did a 180 when she saw an opportunity to kiss Donald Trump's ass and try to emerge as a leader under the MAGA hat within the Republican Party. And what she says now is so consistently contrary to what she has said before, and it's so pathetic that she has sacrificed all of her morals and integrity just to placate Donald Trump for her own political ambition. And there are others like that as well. So it's a mixed bag.
Well, the worst part about that is that she knows exactly who she's fooling by virtue of doing this. She's just, it's not the Democrats who can't see what she's become. It's her own audience that she's perfectly content to pull the wool over their eyes because she's just operating in blind deference to Donald Trump. Why do you think that this is so central to their strategy for Trump's team to, and I mean that more broadly, just like the entire Trump universe here, to violate his gag order, even if it means bringing in these Republican officials from Washington?
Well, Donald Trump's entire defense to all of the criminal cases against him is political. He has, from the get-go, had a very politicized defense, which has nothing to do with the actual facts or merits of the case, but is claiming this false, bogus claim of election interference, that these prosecutions are designed to take up his time or get him off the ballot or all this stuff, when in reality, all of the investigation started long before he ran for president, and he declared so early just so that he could make this bogus defense. But those political defenses do not work in a court of law. And in a court of law, he will not be able to make to the jury any of these arguments. He will need, and his lawyers will need, to focus on the facts, to focus solely on the evidence, and whatever the law is that applies. And that's what the jury is charged with doing. The question is, jurors are instructed not to read or see or watch or anything related to the trial. And if they uphold that oath, then all of this circus outside is completely irrelevant. The risk, of course, is that because it's so much in the news, it's everywhere, that it's hard for jurors to avoid all association with it. And that's clearly what the Republican members of Congress are hoping. I mean, they are literally trying to tamper with the jury by speaking out in ways that Donald Trump cannot, in a purely politicized effort to interfere with this case.
And a byproduct of that, even if Donald Trump realizes that this trial itself, may be a lost cause, at least he can continue to appeal to the American people and try to win this thing in the court of public opinion and just continue to hammer away at this idea for his voters, to basically poison the well, in advance of an unfavorable result of a conviction being handed down, to poison the well for the rest of the American people and to undermine what the jury might come forward and say. To watch the full interview with Daniel Goldman, click the thumbnail right here on the screen or check out the interviews playlist on my YouTube channel. You can also click the link on the screen to listen to the audio version of this episode, and of course to see more of my content, the subscribe button's on the screen as well.
Peace.